From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Oh, Matthew, you are looking good. Dear audience, for those of you that are not watching us on YouTube, Matthew's got his beard trimmed. He's got his teeth whitened. His eyebrows are waxed. He's going to become a movie star today.
He is looking good, Lou.
That's because our guest is Darren Marble, the executive producer of the TV show Going Public, a groundbreaking interactive series that allows viewers the chance to play real-life Shark Tank. Remember that show? By being able to click to invest as they watch. Season 2 just went live and is premiering on the Dow Jones Network with NBA superstar Baron Davis. Darren Marble, thank you for blessing us with your presence. Welcome to the podcast. What compelled an avid entrepreneur like you to take on Hollywood and come up with a show?
You know, one, we're crazy and stupid, right? This is an idea, guys, that has been talked about on Wall Street and Hollywood for 15 or 20 years. We have 75 investors in our company on the cap table. At least 20 of them, said, "Oh, we had this idea. I had this idea. We went down this path." And my partner pitched me on this concept of a show like Shark Tank where viewers could invest in featured companies while they watch in 2017 in New York. And at that time, I had heard this pitch dozens of times. I knew bankers, I knew broker-dealers, producers, celebrities, people attached to celebrities that wanted to make a show like this because it's obvious. It's a common idea. The Shark Tank is such a phenomenon. It's so successful. It's become a cultural zeitgeist, both in the US and globally, that millions of people have had this idea probably. And, some of them are entrepreneurs and business people and have thought, maybe we can tackle this. Everybody's watched that show and said, I would invest in that deal. But you can't, right? It's just the sharks. And so we took a hard look at what it would take to create the next version of Shark Tank, where viewers can learn about startups, learn about the businesses, the investment opportunity, and actually participate. Not for $50,000 or $100,000, but for $200, $500, $2,000. And it turns out there's a good 10 pieces that were needed to put this puzzle together. So, we came from the industry, and I guess, the question I always had was, how do we make online capital raising mainstream? And that's my background. We're pioneers in helping companies raise capital in community rounds through Jobs Act exemptions where U.S. companies can market their deals, raise capital from everyday Americans or retail investors. And this industry is not mainstream today. 7-8 years later, there have been billions of dollars raised, but we're talking $8 billion across 8 years, not $100 billion. And, you take that number to Wall Street, it's small. So my question was, how can we make this $100 billion a year industry? How can we make equity crowdfunding or online capital raising massively mainstream? And the answer I kept coming to over and over was that we might be able to do it through a show that becomes as big or bigger than Shark Tank, where to the viewer, it just works. It's just seamless. You don't need to know the lingo, the jargon. It's entertaining. It's fun. That was really the question I'd asked myself and kind of the answer that I kept arriving at.
So, Darren, while government and both federal and state are always concerned with consumer protection, right? Nobody wants the public to get harmed. But to produce a show like that, and I think you phrased it as 10 moving puzzle pieces, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make that possible. I mean, you've got financial regulations, legal criteria, you've got FINRA on your back, maybe even the SEC on your back. How long did it take from this brainchild to launching season 1 and going through that rigmarole of American lovely bureaucracy?
Look, it took 5 years. And now from season 1 to season 2, it took another 2 years. So that gives you a sense of how challenging this was. And, we're considered industry experts. We're the guys that have the knowledge of how this industry works and have been involved in hundreds of deals and, helped companies raise hundreds of millions of dollars online. Even with that knowledge and expertise, it took 5 years. And I'll tell you, what I love about this industry is that it is regulated. It's a regulated capital raising regime. The Jobs Act of 2008, which then was rolled out in 2012, which was a response to the 28 crisis, was designed to make it easier for small and emerging businesses to access capital and capital markets. And on the other side of the coin, to level the playing field for retail investors. Reg A Plus went into effect in 2015, raised up to now 75 million from anyone over the age of 18. Reg CF went into effect in 2016, now raised up to 5 million from anyone over the age of 18. Market the deal. And so the beauty of these securities exemptions, Lou, is that the rules are black and white. So what I often say is that we're in an industry that is kind of the antithesis or the opposite of crypto or NFTs, which is an opaque market. It's a lemon market from my perspective. If you don't have the inside information, you're the guy getting burned, right? You're the mark. And you're the guy that's the sucker that's going to be the exit liquidity for the sponsors or the insiders. Anyways, the rules are black and white, and they're now established. So for companies to raise up to $5 million, let's say in Reg CF, and the 3 companies in season 2 are using this capital raising tool, you have to provide reviewed or audited financials, and you file a Form C, which is a disclosure document with the SEC. If you go through that process and then you run your deal on a FINRA funding portal, which I have a company that owns and operates a funding portal, or a FINRA broker-dealer, you can now raise up to $5 million from anyone over the age of 18. The Going Public series is a marketing vehicle for a Reg CF or for that deal. So I'm a fan of this type of regulation because the rules are clear. And if you follow the rules and you don't lie, cheat, or steal, you can legally raise capital from the crowd. And the show is just an innovation in the way the investment and the opportunity is communicated. And more specifically, we're solving for distribution. The show solves for retail distribution. If you're trying to raise $5 million, you've gone through 2 months of work, you got an auditor, a law firm, you're ready to go. Our show is a way for you to have your investment narrative shared with millions of potential investors and traders. So there are landmines, and hey, good luck to our competitors trying to go down this path because the alligators are everywhere.
I love this so much because when I was on Wall Street, that $5 million raise did not exist. One of my firms was probably the only game in town that you could bring it to because it was so capital intensive just to even have a banker on your side or a firm look at it, right? And the meetings and finding investors. This just makes it so much easier and simplified if you know the rules. Now, when I left in 2015, this wasn't a popular way to do things. So what are some of these rules? Because you said audited financials on Crowd CF. What if it's a startup company? Can they actually go out there and do it with no financials?
Absolutely. Excuse me. You can have a company you started yesterday go through this process and raise up to 5 million. You can have a company that's been operating for 10 years. For Reg CF, the company has to be a U.S. for-profit entity.
Okay.
So yes, it's a great tool. These campaigns are generally fast, easy, and cheap to launch. And what we wanted to do with this show is really entertain viewers, educate them, provide the disclosure. But the Going Public series, guys, it's not a podcast, it's not an infomercial, it's a reality series. So if you watch season 2, which is now streaming on MarketWatch or goingpublic.com, there's 5 episodes, and you can see that we put these founders through challenges. So it's not an infomercial where we're just hyping a deal over and over, buy now. You don't hear any of that. What you see is a profile of the founder running their business and how these people react when they're out of their comfort zone. And that's more interesting. That's more entertaining. And then on the back end, all these companies are raising capital using Reg CF, so they can generally solicit, and Reg D 506C, so they can raise and solicit a private placement and raise from accredited investors. But the show is really the top of the funnel, the investment opportunity and the deal terms and the structure and the disclosure and the financials. That's the middle of the funnel. The bottom of the funnel is when viewers then click to invest. They've watched the show, they've learned about the business, the founder, they've seen these founders out of their element, how they react under pressure. Think apprentice style challenges. They hit the campaign page, they can see all the disclosure, financials, forecasts, cap table, all of the important financial information that any retail investor needs to assess an investment in a private company. And then we have integrated technology so they can invest in under a minute. If they click to invest, they can check out for shares in a startup from their iPhone and check out using Apple Pay in
Wow.
about
Do
40 seconds.
you have an internal metric that tells you the average public investment?
We do. Look, I think the average investment in the industry for a Reg CF is about $1,200. So that's the average. Now, our show is being distributed by Dow Jones, which owns the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Market Watch, and Investors Business Daily.
So I imagine that metric is probably substantially higher.
It's already looking like it is. We just got our first report from Dow yesterday. It's substantially higher because that audience is all investors and traders. In fact, that network, which is called the Wall Street Journal Delivery Network, is ranked #1 in reach of active U.S. traders, #2 in reach of affluent adults. So we do expect to have a much higher average. Maybe it'll be 3,000, maybe it'll be 5,000 at the end of this season. But of course, anybody can invest. So, the company sets $100 minimum, you could buy in for $100 too.
Now, the other side of the coin, are there certain types of businesses you like to have on the show, like brick and mortar, retail, SaaS, or basically, as long as there's a compelling story, come aboard?
Yeah, great question. Season 2 has some interesting companies. We have a company called Cards and Coffee, which is a $23 million a year collectibles company. We have an automotive company called Saline Automotive. Steve Saline is a legendary race car driver. And then we have a company called Max International, tens of millions of dollars in annual revenue, supplements business, glutathione. We generally like casting Series A businesses, Lou, companies that are venture-backed, companies that are doing more than 10 million in annual revenue. You won't find a Shark Tank style business in this show. The companies in this show are too successful for Shark Tank. They're too big. So we say, companies, when they appear on Shark Tank and have success, they should apply to be featured in a season of going public. So we like to cast founders and companies that have worked out the kinks, gone from 0 to 1, done the hardest work, and they're now in a scale up or growth phase. We also want to cast companies that have a vision to become publicly traded companies. So, as a retail investor, if Cards and Coffee raises $2 million from 2,000 investors, there's no liquidity in those securities for those 2,000 investors. If and until Dan Fleischman, the CEO, takes his company public, sells in an acquisition, or maybe private equity comes in and buys out the early investors in a secondary. Those are really the 3 exit opportunities for investors. So because of that, we're effectively replacing venture capitalists, angel investors, family offices with hundreds or thousands of everyday American retail investors. We want to put companies in this show that have a vision to be public, that have institutional assets run by institutional management teams, so that the viewers of this series have an opportunity to earn a return. They are ultimately our most important constituent in this show. So even though we sign appearance agreements and we receive cash and stock fees from the companies in the show, and of course those fees are disclosed per SEC rules, the viewers of the series are the real customers. It's the millions of people who end up watching these episodes, some small portion of which engage and invest, and we want to see them generate a return. That's the whole objective and mission here. The show's fun, but the goal is to level the playing field. It's to provide access to exciting alternative investment opportunities that have previously been reserved for wealthy and connected investors. and we think we're on our way.
So, Darren, now that you've put those 10 proverbial pieces of the puzzle together, are you starting to see green shoots? Is the lift getting lighter?
It is. And it's only taken 7 years, to get there, but no, it absolutely is. So I won't share all the pieces, but there's some that are obvious. We have a show, so there's a production company involved. The show streams on Market Watch, so we have a distribution company in Dow Jones. The show is highly produced, and someone had to pay the production company, so we have capital. We've raised millions of dollars to produce this show, and there's 7 other pieces, right? Now that we've put the puzzle together, and now that we've put out season 2, which is notably better than season 1, and by the way, it's rare. Like, how many movies are like Terminator 2? Most people don't even think about Terminator 1 because Terminator 2 is so damn good.
Oh, Darren, you're preaching to the choir. Matt and I listened to our first 2-3 episodes of this podcast. We cringe like, oh.
So it's an evolution, and you've got to launch a podcast and do 10 episodes and say, you know what, we need better lighting, this, that, better guests, different format. We did the same thing. I think we've got a really good foundation now. And so what's happening is we are getting contacted by big networks, linear broadcast networks, by some of the big streamers. The largest talent agency in the world is a partner, CAA, to this series in our production company. And, we're not going to stop until this show is bigger than Shark Tank, or we're going to die trying. I've put 7 years of time into this. My partners put 7 years of time. We are playing a long game, without a doubt. I hope to be doing this in my 70s and 80s. Our vision here is to create the CNBC of private markets. It's a big vision. It's audacious, low likelihood of success, but we've got something unique. And there's still opportunities for improvement. But, this season was fun because we started to attach talent. We started to attach celebrities. So Baron Davis, who's a 2-time NBA All-Star, prolific investor. He's invested in 100 companies. He's the host of season 2. Baron's a stud. 13-year career in the NBA, entrepreneur, investor. And then we have people like Floyd Mayweather Jr., who hosted challenges. So there's some star power now attached to this thing. It's starting to get out there organically through the talent we attached. I'll tell you what we did, by the way, with Floyd, which was fun. And you guys have probably seen this now. We brought the founders of season 2 to Las Vegas. We didn't tell them what they were doing or who they were meeting. The lights go on, and they're literally in a boxing ring with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and they're now pitching their business to Floyd for 3 minutes while sparring with him, sparring with the champ. And that is entertainment. And that's
that's one person I don't want to spar with.
Me neither. And listen, we didn't do that in season 1. Season 1 was very business focused, business oriented, metrics oriented, more serious, less mainstream. So how do we make a show mainstream? We put talent in it. We infuse it with MTV or apprentice style challenges.
Hey, Darren, look, just as Matt and I as audience members, and I appreciate you drawing the analogy to Shark Tank. But from the outside looking in, the analogy I see to Shark Tank is the fact that you deal with businesses, right? And there's some sort of fund capital raise. But I think your product is so different. The Shark Tank is very lowest common denominator, whereas yours is actually a true tool to the American small business. So
I appreciate that. And I'll tell you what we didn't want to do, Lou. We didn't want to create a knockoff of Shark Tank. We're very adamant about that. And that means from a format perspective, because look, there's probably 50 shows out there that look and feel like Shark Tank that are not Shark Tank. And you know what I call those?
Come on, Darren. You're telling me Mark Cuban doesn't cringe when someone's telling him, well, the icing on my cupcake just keeps melting. I just don't know how to fix it.
Look, I think there's a lot of knockoffs, and that's the easy thing to do. It's easy to go produce something that looks and feels like Shark Tank, but isn't. And what would that involve? A studio with a panel of random judges who are not Mark Cuban, Damon John, and other entrepreneurs. This is the crypto version of Shark Tank. There is one, by the way. It's called Killer Whales. Entrepreneur, our first media partner, had a series. They still do, Elevator Pitch. We didn't want to recreate the 51st version of Shark Tank. We wanted to create a different series with a different format that was unique and could stand on its own. And I think we're getting there. And by the way, one of the possible avenues for this series is we go to broadcast. Maybe we get the show on CNBC. The format would have to change again. We wouldn't be able to have 5 episodes and 3 founders. It's unlikely. Maybe we have 1 founder per episode. So, we're in a position of being flexible, willing to evolve, seeing where the market moves, and just trying to go upstream, I think, is the bottom line.
Well, Darren, thank you for taking us a lap on your horse, but now we want to talk about the jockey. I mean, you sharpened your teeth at Oracle for 10 years. You had to learn a couple of tricks there.
But yeah, look, I'm a sales guy through and through, for better or worse. I had a great career selling Oracle for a decade. I started my career in inside sales, exited myself as a regional vice president of sales. I'm a college dropout, so going into sales was probably a good idea for a college dropout. I went to UCLA, spent 4 or 5 years there, kind of went off the rails a little bit, but found myself back in the game and cold calling, got into the mortgage industry, during the subprime years, actually, and learned how to make 300 cold calls and get on, phones 4 hours a day. Turns out that was pretty damn good baseline experience.
Oh, Matt and I always say, if you can make phone sales, you can do anything on this planet.
Listen, I now we're like in this world of like AI and auto dialers and all this stuff, and that's great. But I'm glad that I came up in a time where none of that stuff really existed. Like the auto dialers existed, but it was me pitching on the phone to a human when there was a connection. And, I think there's, and I don't want to, I'm not going to make this about Gen Z this or Gen Z that, but I do think that the younger generation missed out on that opportunity to really cut their teeth, to really learn how to hustle, how to grind, how to push. And again, this is a little bit of a stereotype, but I do think there's some truth to it. And of course, I have people on my teams, guys, just to be clear, that are the younger generation, that are the anomalies. But man, they're hard to find. It's hard to find guys out there that have that energy that I was brought up with in 2006, 7, 8, hundreds and thousands and thousands of calls. You don't see that anymore.
Darren, let me ask you one thing. I'm thinking about you as a salesman with Oracle. When you're selling Oracle software to these businesses, I mean, you're getting intimate inside looks at these businesses. That really had to prepare for your 2.0 of your career, because you're seeing how the sausage is made over and over again and all these different businesses.
Yeah, listen, I think that's true. And Oracle's interesting because they're the largest software company in the world. And, you go into a company that wants to buy Oracle or is looking at Oracle and SAP and other packages. These are, $200 million a year businesses, billion-dollar companies, Fortune 500. You do see how the sausage is made. You learn how businesses work. But the other thing that I learned is really how to be strategic, how to run a sales cycle. Nobody on this planet that runs a $200 million, billion-dollar business is pulling the trigger on $1 million software deal in a first meeting. In fact, the average sales cycle, Lou, was like 6 months.
Wow.
So it was a lesson in patience, in strategy. There were multiple decision makers, influencers, coaches. Oracle used to have, specialized software that they had bought or acquired so that their sales reps could literally map out the org chart in these companies and come up with a formula for like who's going to focus on which executive. And it's a very, they call it complex sales or high sales for a reason. And that taught me a lot because, in business and now negotiating deals with Dow Jones, you think that deal, happened overnight? Dude, it was a year and we hit roadblocks at every turn. When we did our deal with Entrepreneur Media, the president, Ryan Shea, said, "I love this idea, guys. We'd love to put your show on our network." Took 16 months after that call to sign the distribution deal. Then it goes to the law firm and the legal. Oh my God, is this legal? How does this work? Ryan doesn't know what he's talking about. Who's liable for statements? But that's exactly the cycle that I had been preparing for my whole life, which was, all right, let's dig in. Let's map out a strategy to run this cycle, overcome objections, I'm not going to be the only guy needed. We're going to have to build a team around us. Sarah, you talk to the lawyer. Todd, you talk to the dad. It's a strategy. And that's what you learn when you sell complex software and do $1 million deals. And that's how business works. The hardest deals to do are the most strategic deals. Same thing when you're raising capital. You think a venture capital firm pulls the trigger on a $10 million investment after a week? Maybe if you're like Sam Altman, AI genius, Musk, there's exceptions for sure.
Darren,
But
wouldn't it be
99%,
great?
dude, you're in a
Wouldn't it be
cycle.
great if it came full circle and you had Larry Ellison on your show next season?
Larry would be great. It's funny. Like I was in the Oracle world for 10 years, never met Larry, but I feel like I know him a little bit because you could literally see and hear and feel like the Larry Ellison energy in the sales team. And Oracle has thousands and thousands of salespeople. And these are some of the most savvy, intellectually capable, but also some of the most aggressive and even ruthless salespeople you'll ever meet. It's a high pressure environment. It's, win or go home, A players only. There's no room for a B plus. It was a winner's circle. And that aggressiveness, that desire to compete and win, I think is a Larry Ellison trait that incredibly trickled down across dozens or hundreds of executives, VPs, managers, to the field level salesperson going in and pitching and going through discovery meetings. He'd be great. I'll tell you who we'd like to get in this series. We'd like to get guys like Dave Portnoy, host a pizza making challenge. We'd like to get Rick Ross. We'd like to get
Matthew Meehan.
50 Cent. We want to bring in talent and celebrities and have these people host challenges that are tied to themes of entrepreneurship, because these are interesting people, right? And but Larry Ellison, my God, he's a talented entrepreneur, and I got a sense, a taste of that during my time there.
So tell us how you went from Oracle and then founded Issuance, because we really haven't touched upon your day job, Issuance.
Yeah, midway through my career, Lou, I wanted to start a company and be an entrepreneur. And the first company I started was a social networking site, of all things, for filmmakers. That business didn't work. We pivoted. I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to lose my investors' money. So we pivoted this social networking site into a marketing agency. We started marketing crowdfunding campaigns, Kickstarter, Indiegogo campaigns. And then we went from marketing Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns to marketing Reg A securities, marketing securities through Jobs Act deals. In 2018, I met Nick Allen, my co-founder at Issuance, a brilliant technologist. He's a prodigy. We had a vision to build a platform for online capital raising. So that's piece number 4. We have technology. We have the software that allows the viewer to click to invest while they watch. It's interactive. It's seamless. That technology is provided to the Going Public series and to the issuers in the Going Public series by Issuance. So
are these separate entities?
They are separate entities. Issuance is a fintech. I've got a co-founder there, and then the Going Public series is produced by another company called Crush Capital, where Todd Goldberg and I are co-CEOs. And again, I think that's one of the reasons this series has never been done. Is there's really a lot of moving pieces there, and not all these pieces fit well with each other or integrate naturally. But we understood that the technology needed to process investments, to process securities online. And then Todd had this grand vision to produce a show and said, I can bring in production. Relationship with the guys that founded Entrepreneur Media, entrepreneur.com. Slowly and painstakingly putting these pieces together. It's taken some time, but we're having fun with it.
I love it. So let's talk about Issuance a little bit, right? So are you guys just a technology platform, or do you help them get all their docs in order for the subscription and everything? Do you guys go from A to Z, or do you guys just provide?
Yeah, it's a point solution, and for a reason. So Issuance is like Stripe for securities. So companies license one of 4 products that Issuance has so they can raise capital online. That might be in a private placement. So we have a product for venture capitalists, for institutional capital raisers. We have a product for Reg CF, where companies can raise up to $5 million. We have a product for Reg A plus, We have a product for Reg D 506C. What it is more than anything else is it's a slick checkout engine. So Issuance is providing the technology from the moment an investor hits a landing page, you see all the deal information, and you click invest now. From that moment, the checkout is facilitated by Issuance. So it includes payment processing. Investors can remit payment for securities using their credit card, debit card, Cash App, ACH transfer, wire transfer. We're running KYC and AML checks in real time on every investor. It has electronic document signing. Of course, it's mobile responsive. So it's the checkout engine or the processing engine so that companies that have big marketing campaigns behind them or have 1 million emails and 1 million customers, and they're going to go to their customers to raise capital. It's designed to be high converting, seamless, low friction, and allow the retail investor to go from start to finish in as few steps as possible. So that's what Issuance does.
I love it.
Darren, you're still kind of young, buddy. I mean,
oh, you're nice, man. I'm 44 years old.
Yeah, well, there's about half a century according to my math. So
I'm an OG, man. Like my industry has grown up around me, and you know, I have friends will introduce me and be like, "Well, Darren's like the OG," you know, like you know, we've been in this industry for a long time, and like I said, I mean, I hope to be doing this in my 70s and 80s and finding joy in it. We're playing a very long game. It's rife with challenges, but that's what you sign up for as a founder. You know, talking about like entrepreneurship for a moment, I think it's the average founder fails because they quit too early. Like that would be my thesis. I think there's evidence to back that up. Now, you know, you could go to Bill Gross at Idea Lab and he'd give you like, well, it's not that simple. You know, there's 10 different reasons. Companies run out of money, wrong co-founder fit, you know, lack of product market fit. Okay, great. So what do? You pivot, right? You get back up and go again. You run out of money. Okay, great. Let you know, reduce salaries, let some of your team go. You know, go invest your own dollars, your own savings. The most resilient founders find a way. And I think people just, it's so easy when you run a business. I don't care what it is. FinTech, AI, you produce a show, you know, we're a little different, but still we're entrepreneurs. And
you're not different, Darren. I think you just answered why your show was going to be successful, because earlier you made mention that in season 3, you may have to pivot again. You may have to evolve.
That's correct.
And that's the evolution of business. I don't think there's a business that ever started in year 1 that was exactly the same in year 10. Things evolve. The market, if you don't change, the market changes around you.
That's a fact. And I just think the average person quits because it's so easy, Lou, to run out of money. Like companies like, oh, I ran out of money. I'm done. Well, no shit. Like that's what happens in the startup world. It's very common to run out of money. It's easy to run out of money. It's easy to run out of confidence. It's easy to run out of grit because.
But Darren, there's something that happens at around 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. The guy that's working for you and punches out at 5 o'clock, he has dinner with his wife and he's watching probably your show late at night and he forgets about it. But you wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in a sweat and you're thinking about, geez, season 3, season 4, what am I going to do? There's so much for you to do. But it's that tension that makes it fun and keeps it alive.
Well, it makes it fun, but it's I jokingly say, but I mean this, like you have to be a little or a lot stupid to want to start your own company. Like
or just
you gotta be a little fucking out there and crazy because this shit's nuts. Like everybody sees like, you know, the success stories. Oh, Musk, you know, Bezos. But dude, it's brutal. I mean, even the founder of NVIDIA, Jensen was, you know, he's like, I wouldn't do this again. He's like, fuck that. The guy's, you know, multi-trillion-dollar business. He's like,
no, but Jensen is the epitome of what you and I are talking about. People don't realize Jensen, because he's got these really cool black leather jackets, he's the same age as Bill Gates.
Sure.
And Bill Gates
looks great, by the way. How old is he?
I think they're 70 or 71. But Bill Gates went off into the horizon.
I actually had no idea. I thought that guy was in his like 50s, early 50s.
He's a rock star.
I got to do a fact check on that one. I didn't think so either.
What? I had no idea. Wow. The guy looks, he's
contemporary.
Something's working there.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
He's 61 years old.
61. Okay, he's
It
61. He still looks great. Yeah.
It was a slow burn. It wasn't like it was going to be an automatic success. You know, they've only been selling $400,000 chips for the last 12 months.
Exactly. No, it's a long game, and like I think the average founder doesn't have that in them. It's too much. You've got to go through so much pain and suffering that you've got to be a little crazy to be like, sign me up for more of this shit. Like I want it again. But I think there's a small percentage of the population that is kind of geared for it, and I think I'm one of those people. It's I love it. I love the ups. I love the downs. You have to love all of it. You can't just be like only celebrate the wins. Like the experience is a roller coaster, and you go to the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom sometimes in a single day, in a single hour, and that's what it is. So. Right. Darren, if you're a guy that like doesn't love the lows, like this is not for you.
Darren, let's cut to the chase. There's a reason you're on this podcast today. My partner looks great in a 3-piece suit. He also looks good, all tatted with a black T-shirt. You tell us what you need for season 3, man. I'll have him ready.
Listen, we're looking for great founders.
You get Tyson. We'll go 6 rounds with him.
You guys will be awesome. I mean, look, I'll tell you one of the things we are looking for. We need people that are interesting. We need characters, and it's challenging because there's founders of businesses who are very dull and boring, but they're freaking brilliant, and they might not play well in a show like this where it's a reality series and they're on camera. Yeah. But we like people like you guys that can talk, communicate, have energy, have personality, have some likability to them. Maybe they're even eccentric. That's part of what we're looking for, because it's a show. It's like, when people cast a movie, they're looking for very specific traits in an actor or a lead or a supporting actress.
Yeah,
so there's an element of that here.
That's the fine line you have to straddle, right? Because you're providing value and you are a platform. But at the end of the day, there's got to be entertainment value attributed to it. Otherwise, the viewership won't be there. And if there's no prize, there's no prize.
That's exactly right. That's why Mike Tyson is outside your door, Lou. He's coming in 3, 2. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Darren,
shorter than I thought.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find, first of all, Issuance, right? Because I think that's important. Everybody should look into that for their companies too. If they're looking to raise any money or taking on too much debt, this is another way that they can go out there, and get access to the capital that they need, right?
Absolutely. Companies can learn about Issuance on issuance.com. And then we are proud to own the domain goingpublic.com for the series.
Awesome.
So we're brand builders. I believe in building big mainstream brands that have real names and real domains, and taking time and capital to acquire these things. The Going Public domain, we spent $35,000, which is actually less than I thought we'd have to spend. My co-founder at Issuance won't tell me how he got the Issuance domain, some black hat magic, cloak and dagger stuff, but. Issuance.com, goingpublic.com. You can learn about the products Issuance has for online capital raising. If you're a founder, if you have a community, if you have a brand, you have customers, fans, and followers, you're probably a very good fit to raise capital online. If you are a Series A founder, you've raised millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars from venture. You have a vision to take your company public. You want to share your story with the world and might be willing to get off card and go toe-to-toe with the champ in Vegas. Go to goingpublic.com and apply to be featured in a future season.
Everybody needs to go to goingpublic.com. Check out the series. I watched it last night. Luigi binge watched it, and we were just talking about this morning. It's an amazing show. Darren, thank you for putting it together.
Thank you, guys.
And it's not just an amazing show. It's just the whole ecosystem that you built behind it is something that that's not usually done. And I'm pretty impressed, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Luigi, for having me on.
Everybody. One question before I let you run.
Sure.
So we're talking about investing. We're talking about investing in companies. What's the best investment you ever made?
Wow, that's a good one. The best investment I've ever made. I'll tell you. I always love this answer because it catches people off guard. The best investment I ever made was in my sobriety. I've been sober 10 years. I quit drinking 10 years ago. And that was the one personal change which became a massive transformation for me to unlock my capabilities and my talent and my true potential as an entrepreneur and as a human, as a person. And I think it's funny because typically people give you an answer. They're like, oh, I invested in Tesla in 2008. I held on to these Apple shares, or I found this startup in Uber and I got in on the Series A. Sure, that's great. But I challenge anybody who's listening to this, who just heard that, to think if that could be a change for you. I challenge you to quit drinking for 90 days. Sometimes, in order to change the world, you've got to change yourself first. And for me, I needed to change myself. And truthfully, it was the last change I ever thought I would need. That investment in quitting drinking, walking away from alcohol, was the single best decision I've ever made. Outside of marrying my wife, I got to give her some credit, right? So she's always number one. But quitting drinking, and it's I give this advice to founders and investors all the time, is my sobriety gives me the ability to put 100% of my time, energy, and attention into the things that matter to me, my family, my businesses. And I describe the improvement as like a 1 or 2% improvement in productivity, effectiveness, choosing better words, energy, how I show up. That 1% improvement compounding every day for 10 years was the breakthrough I had always been looking for. So that's my closing word there.
I love it, Darren. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, that's a wrap on the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.